Chapter 125. I really hate the smell of the forest. It reminds me of the fight where my limbs were bitten off and I nearly got my whole team killed. That and there's just so many things to sense. I've trained myself extensively to be able to pick out and identify dangerous scents and sounds, so it's not overwhelming, but it's certainly a lot. And now with Vigor gone, I feel obligated to be the one directing everybody to safety. Which is a surprisingly difficult task even when we're just holding position in the shallow part of the forest. Excorious. I call out. Hey, there's something big heading this way from starboard. I would have asked Manus, but he's out intercepting something on the opposite side, and we will go. Excorious cuts me off, turning to walk towards where I'm pointing. You will follow us. Yes ma'am, I acknowledge, hurrying after. The clearing we're all huddled in, if you can call it a clearing, really, considering how many parts of it are blocked by trees, contains the whole collection of convicts and workers that followed Vida, mostly out of a fear of not making it to a town on their own. Considering that she just randomly left and we don't know how long it will be until she comes back, the handful of folks that know how to build shelters have been directing others to do exactly that. Thus, the start of a pretty large camp is slowly getting erected in the middle of human hostile territory. You have been proactive about scouting threats, Jelisaveta, Excorious continues. Thank you. But we find ourselves somewhat disturbed. Vida and her revenants each indicated we would be relatively safe here. And we were, until quite recently. What changed? Being a big group is attracting a lot of attention, I answer. Larger apex monsters that would normally avoid this part of the forest due to relative food scarcity are sensing us and roaming this way. And I'm like 90% sure Vida just being around was scaring them off before. Excorious smirks with satisfaction. The forest knows its ruler. Good. We are ignorant about forest traversal, we admit. How much trouble is this camp in? I hedge, making a so-so gesture. I'd turn a normal Templar squad away and try to lose threats like this rather than fight them, but it's nothing you, Manus, and Tommy can't handle. Vida's dregs just kind of slow them down, usually by getting eaten, but that's actually pretty helpful so whatever. I have Jeremiah with Manus because he can revive the monsters Manus kills on our side, but, well, you and Tommy fuck up the corpses too much for that to be as effective. Who is Tommy? Excorious asks. I blink. He's the revenant with the powerful cold-based thermomancy talent? The one that fought alongside Captain Manus. Excorious nods. His name is actually Ice Guy now. I scrunch my eyebrows. Vida, what the fuck? That's a bit dehumanizing, I comment. You may have noticed with those particularly keen senses of yours, Jelisaveta, but he is no longer human. We think it is an appropriate title, and he is pleased with being given a new name by his master. Is that the beast? We think we see it. Excorious glances at a mid-sized herbivorous snake that has been entirely minding its own business, and suddenly it balloons into a massive horrifying mutant tumors. I hear its heartbeat strain and end moments later. No, that wasn't it, I clarify, trying not to wince. Poor thing. You should see it coming through the trees up ahead in about 30 seconds or so. Actually, I've been meaning to ask. Victoria said you sometimes used your talent at random back at the prison, and, no, Excorious corrects. We have full control of our talent. I was using it on purpose, trying to test ways around the collar. Sino and Nix never cared to, but that's how I spent my time. I suck on the inside of my lip. So, you were trying to kill whoever walked in through the door? I ask hesitantly. Our talent does far more than kill, Jelisaveta, Excorious answers. If that was supposed to be a denial, it didn't sound like one. She snorts, shaking her head slightly. We were in prison for 12 years, Inquisitor. Our own child forgot us in that time. She gives me a side-eyed glower. I rather wish you had all been killed sooner. Wouldn't you, in our position? I don't have an answer to that, but I do at least have a good distraction. 36 seconds after my call-out. Damn, I'm off my game. A massive limb bursts through the trees, pulling behind it a thin, gangly body with 5 other horrifyingly long arms. The beast's legs are all tipped with hairy, almost humanoid hands, with 3 joints in each arm. Every one of them is over 4 times longer than the main body itself, which is almost entirely a giant, gaping mouth. The Spiderwalk Snatcher, as it's called, barely gets a chance to terrify every onlooker before Excorial gruesomely murders it with a look, a satisfied grin splitting her face all the while. "We did not taint the meat," she comments idly. "Though we do remove almost all the morbling in the process. Still, we could have some people butcher that for supplies." I think we're good for now," I respond diplomatically. "Actually, while I've got you here, I was kinda wondering if I could ask you some personal things. If that's alright." The lumpy, twisted-toothed woman turns my way, a piercing glare in her eyes. I think I'm the only person that I've seen hold her stare without, staring at how odd she looks. I wonder what she thinks of that, though it would probably be rude to point that out, so I don't intend to ask. Perhaps, Excorial nods. "You're certainly welcome to ask, but we may not answer. However, we are also hoping to ask a few things. And you will answer. Yay, more threats." I just shrug and nod, though. It's not like I have anything to hide. "Go for it. What is your plan, here?" she asks. "We see you've been establishing yourself as a point of command, directing Vita's forces as if they were your own. What opening are you trying to create?" I scowl slightly, a bit surprised by the question but quickly seeing the logic behind it. I'm not really the planning type, I admit honestly. I just wing it, generally. I help whoever's in front of me. Right now, that's everyone here. You included. I'm directing people because I can tell where the threats are coming from before anyone else, and I don't want those threats to hurt anyone. That's it. Excorial considers. We lack Vita's ability to sniff out falsehoods, so consider me still suspicious. We, then me. That's got to be purposeful, but I can only guess as to what it implies right now. If I had some kind of master escape plan or whatever, don't you think Vita would have noticed me plotting it before she left? I counter. Excorial's expression is difficult to read with how different her face is, but I still see the subtle tightening and unfocusing of her eyes that indicates she's considering it. Her muscles, tense under the bulbous growths on her skin, relax ever so slightly. Subconsciously, I've been judged as less of a threat. Which is good, because I'm really not one. Anyway, if it's okay to ask, I transition awkwardly. I was curious about your whole situation. Sorry, I really have no idea how to address this politely. You're more than one person, right? She chuckles. It's a rhetorical question, but I just don't know how else to start the subject change. Oh. Is that all? Yes, we are. In some ways we also aren't, but generally speaking we are and prefer to be referred to as separate. Great, cool, I nod. So how does that work? When I'm talking to you, for example, is Nyx listening? And would it be rude to address her? Excorial shrugs. She is aware, yes. We are all always aware, but only one of us moves the vessel at a time. And to answer your question, well, you are standing near 3 people. It is generally rude to talk to one only if you act as though the others are not there, wouldn't you say? I raise my eyebrows. Oh, shit, I have been being rude. Sorry, Nyx. Sorry, Sano? Hello to you both. I haven't met you, Sano, but gosh, I feel awful. Is it okay if I meet Sano? Like, talk to her? Is that a thing I can ask? Excorial smiles, but it's thin and tense. You are more than welcome to ask. Never expect her demand. For now, the vessel remains mine. I hesitate, not sure if it's wise to press that point. I decide to do it anyway. Didn't Vita do that? I ask. Make a demand, I mean. Back at the prison. She put Excorial in charge. I remember that. She shoved her tentacles into this woman and squeezed her soul until she obeyed. Again, Excorial gets more tense, more stressed. I think I can see, with soul sight, the aspects of Nyx and Sano clawing at her ever so slightly. She did, Excorial agrees. And I forgive her, because she is ignorant in her forgetfulness, and because her joy is our purpose. She hisses the last 3 words, and I get the impression she's not just speaking to me. And I notice, then, that perhaps I have an opportunity here after all. I didn't lie to her. I don't have any kind of plan to harm Vita or escape here or whatever. But I'm good at winging it, and I see the obvious opening. If Sano or Nyx is willing to use their talent to help us escape rather than hold us in, we have a chance. We can break through the undead, survive the forest, and bring word to the Templars. But to do that, I would need to emotionally manipulate Ultrix into turning against herself, and I literally can't imagine how much that would suck for her. Unless I'm misreading her, and to be fair, I totally could be. I've only seen Excorial since the prison. I don't know if that's normal or not, but I do know she has been getting progressively more stressed. There's got to be a better way forward than exacerbating that, and in the absence of immediate danger I'm willing to bet on it. Do you want to talk about it? I ask. We have already talked about this, Excorial snaps. Extensively. Sure, and that's good. But sometimes it can help to have a third. I mean, a fourth party to explain things to and bounce ideas off of. She scowls at me. It's frustrating how I can't tell if you're being genuine or not. I think you can tell, I posit. You're just accurately reading me as completely genuine, and that makes you suspicious. Excorial snorts. It is. Very strange. Yeah, I agree. I get that a lot. We should start walking this way, another hungry one is coming. She doesn't say anything but she does follow, and the lull in conversation means my mind has nothing to focus on beyond my hyperactive senses. The mix of dead and living leaves, a fresh rotting plant smell puffing through the scent of hard-working sweaty bodies. It's putrid, arguably in a way I'm used to, but my senses never quite pick up the same things twice. There's always a new subtlety, a point of intense oddity that pounds at my conscious mind and demands attention. What I want to do is focus on the sights and sounds right next to me, the quickening of Ultrix's heart rate, the tense subvocalizations she is unconsciously making as she presumably speaks with the other people that are part of her. Unfortunately, the forest is just too distracting. Oh, well. She can tell me what's going on if and when she's ready. One more horrifyingly bloated forest monster later, Excorial turns to scowl at me. You're getting your wish, we suppose, she grumbles. Sano has agreed not to assist the escape of the prisoners if I release control of the vessel. It takes me a second to realize by prisoners she means the Templars. Not the actual former prisoners. Okay, I say. I wasn't really trying to fish for a conversation with Sano. We know, she cuts me off. We want this. Okay, I nod. Well, let me know when I'm talking to Sano, then. It will happen when it happens, Excorial grunts. Keeping the vessel is much easier than giving it up on purpose. Oh, sure, I allow, having absolutely no context for that. Well, I hope I can help. Ultrix is silent after that, and for the next half hour or so we continue to thin out aggressive threats until they finally slow down, apparently recognizing we're not the free meat we seem to be. A subtle change passes over Ultrix during that time, and I'm not quite sure when exactly I'm walking alongside someone else, but by the time she speaks it's been long since obvious. Hello to you too, Inquisitor, she deadpans. Oh, are you Sano, then? I ask. It's nice to meet you. One thing that always struck me about Excorial is how she has a very posh, almost noble-like inflection and bearing. Sano doesn't seem to match that, walking with a slight slouch and speaking with such little inflection. She reminds me of Vita herself. We'd say the same, but we've known you for a while now, Sano grunts. You mind if we head through the middle? I click my tongue once to double-check we're clear on incoming threats, then nod. Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. We head away from the zombie army circle that marks the outside of the protected zone, towards the camp. Well, the camps, I should say. There's an obvious divide between former prisoners and non-former prisoners, but thankfully the peace Vita forcibly established hasn't yet atrophied in her absence. That said, the prisoners are making temporary shelters mainly through undead labor and either refusing to share it or being refused by the others. The serving staff and bound Templars aren't doing a bad job of setting up their own makeshift tents, though. What surprises me, however, is how Sano immediately starts glancing around rapidly, as if trying to taking every detail in as little time as possible. I wonder what she's doing at first, but then I follow her gaze and watch as a minuscule cut heals and vanishes as she glances at it. Oh, wow, I say. That's actually super impressive. Our names all have a meaning, you know, Sano says. Apparently, the artist thought it was funny to name the people he made like things. Just nouns and verbs, from some ancient language. My name just means heal. I was very literally made for this. Oh, I answer awkwardly. Sorry, is that a sore subject? Can be, Sano grunts. We don't take pride in it. It's something we're good at because we were ripped apart and put back together until we were good at it. That's all. But Excorio. She embraces it. She likes being the single-minded bitch that does what she's told. A slight increase in the pungency of her sweat indicates how stressed she gets from saying so. I imagine it's pretty terrible to be angry at part of yourself like that, I supplie. You don't know anything about it, Sano snaps. Well, you're completely right, I agree. I suppose that's why I have to imagine. But I can tell that you're having a hard time. I don't know what it's like to share a soul with two other people, but you're still people. I can understand that. She sighs through her nose, making her way towards the former staff side of the camp, where the Templars are also staying. We don't really have the luxury of staying mad at each other, Sano says eventually. That's not how we work. None of us can be comfortable if one of us is suffering. But Excorio is so damn busy shoving her nose up our own kid's ass that she doesn't care about how much of a watcher damned asshole Vita has become. For shit's sake, Vita can sense emotions and we haven't even gotten a basic apology for being so fucked into compliance. Do you have any idea how violating that was? We changed that fucking bitch's diapers and they aren't even trying to talk to us. We should lean them over our knee and spank them like they're 4 years old again. Hey, well, that's something we have in common at least, I comment, having no idea how else to navigate that absolute minefield of a rant. I changed Vita's diapers too. Well, kind of. She didn't have diapers at the time, she just shit her pants. Ha! Really? Sano smirks. In the prison, you mean? Yeah, she would just randomly fall into a coma sometimes, I explain. Sometimes for days at a time. So we had to clean her up. Sano's face falls. Oh. That's. We didn't know that. Are they okay? As far as I know, yeah, I reassure her. The problem doesn't seem to be physical, and I think she was doing it on purpose. She huffs in annoyance. See, that's exactly the kind of shit we want to know. But no, Excorio just sits back and never initiates anything. Just lets the kid walk all over us. We just. Ah. The staff gives Ultrix fearful looks as we walk among them, heading towards where the 3 collared Templars are doing their best to help despite having their hands bound behind their backs. Victoria nods at me as we approach, though she sends Sano a nervous look. Don't give us that, Sano grumbles at her. We swapped. An Excorio wouldn't actually hurt you. Victoria's eyebrows raise. Oh. Sorry. Sano, right? Yeah, Sano confirms. Right again. You doing okay, Victoria? I'm alive, I guess, she answers, nodding. Thank you. Hey, Jalisa. Are things going okay? We're safe for now, and attacks are dying down, I confirm. No idea where the Queen of the Dead is, though. Victoria tenses. Jalisa, you can't call her that, she insists. I raise a placating hand. It was ironic, Vicky. Sorry. She relaxes, nodding. She and the other two Templars have understandably been on edge this entire. Let's call it an excursion. Sano, Victoria suddenly pleads, turning to her. Can you help us get out of here? Yes, Sano grunts. But we are not going to. Sano, Vita is going to kill us, Victoria insists. We'll stop her, I promise. You can't fucking stop her. Victoria snaps. No one here can. If she decides to go for it, we're completely dead, and you know it. Of course I know it. I was there. I watched my comrades drop dead like discarded trash, their hearts beating once before hitting the ground and then never again. I felt their bodies stop, I watched their souls get pulled away, I stood helplessly and did fucking nothing when it all happened. And if not for the fact that I start every morning being just as helpless in my own skin, I might have gone mad. I'm just worried an escape attempt will make her more likely to kill you, Vicky, I say simply. I can talk to her. She's powerful, but she's still a person. I'm getting through to her. And then what? Victoria counters. You think she's going to remove our collars and give us weapons? Do you think she's going to send us a fucking zombie escort all the way to Skyhope? No. We'll have to stay her prisoners or be left to die on an impossible trip home. And we can't do that, Jalisa. We need to go, we need to leave, we need to get help for all these people. Supplies will run out and Vita has no plan. She doesn't even want us here. I hesitate. She's not wrong, exactly. I just don't know what she expects me to do about it. I'm good with people, not with prison breaks. Hell, that's the opposite of my job. Though I'm apparently not good at that either. Jalisa, Victoria pleads. I'm not going to have my baby in the fucking forest. I grit my teeth. Fuck. What do I say to that? Should you really be having this conversation with us standing here? Sano asks blandly. We believe we made our position clear. Come on, Jalisa Veta. Take us to the next closest threat. Sure, I agree, following her as she turns and leaves. Then I think a second time about what exactly Sano just said. And didn't say. We will not help. But will she stop us? I plug my nose, which is a bit of a crutch habit, but I really need the extra mental energy right now. If Ultrix isn't trying to kill us with her line-of-sight death talent, our only real threats are Manus, Tommy, Ice Guy, I suppose, and the giant Fukal zombie army. What must it be like, do you think? I muse out loud. To be forced to love and obey something. It sounds terrifying. It is, Sano says bluntly. Our love is probably artificial. I blink in surprise, staring her way. She has a distant look in her eyes and a slight frown. I hear her tongue run along the inside of her mouth, poking at her twisted teeth. We were made after Vita was, Sano continues. Excorio is right, to an extent. To love them, to see them happy. That is our entire reason to exist. And we do love Vita. But it is so frightening to wonder. Are we able to not love them? And if so, is our love less real? We don't know. But even after what Vita did to us, we want so desperately to forgive them. They do not deserve it, but we want to forgive them. I think it's okay to want to forgive people you love, I respond idly. But you should definitely assert yourself. Talk to her about what hurt you. Ask for an apology. Communicate. Vita isn't heartless, she's just. I don't know. She just doesn't get things sometimes. You should be specific and explicit with her. We know, Sano snaps. We raised that child. But now we are just nothing to them. All our time together is gone. How can we possibly bridge the gap of what we mean to each other? This is why we will not help you. Why we could never help you. If we betray Vita, we will lose our chance to be family again. Yet her tone and expression don't match her words. The way she refuses to meet my eyes, all the little subtle ticks and twitches. I could be wrong, but I'm going to take a chance here. I have to. How about you head to the port end of camp, then, and make sure we're safe, I say, because Skyhope is in the complete opposite direction. Most of the attacks have been coming from there, Sano agrees. The deeper forest is that way. Exactly, I confirm. I might send Manus and, Ice Guy to back you up as well. I turn to part ways, my heart beating fast. Vida isn't here right now and I doubt she'll want to stick around this close to Skyhope for long, so this is probably our best chance to escape. Thank you, Sano calls back to me. For all your help, and for all your questions. For my questions? Yeah, it was my pleasure, I answer honestly. I hope things work out with you and Vida. Sano cackles lightly. You really don't see us at cross purposes at all, do you? She asks. We truly hope you survive, Jalisa Vida. Me too, I guess. I call back. Thanks again. I jog off, searching for Jeremiah. He's easy enough to find. The dude still smells like tea, even all the way out in the middle of nowhere. He and Manus are chatting, the latter of whom curtly nods to me as I approach. Inquisitor, he greets. It's kind of creepy how he sounds and acts pretty much exactly the same as he did in life. More threats? We're pretty much good for now, I think, I tell him. I think Ultrix would like to talk to you, though. She's up port. He nods again and swiftly departs, leaving me with Jeremiah. I swallow my nervousness and just come out with it. Are you interested in returning to Skyhope? I ask. He raises his eyebrows. If I was, I would have done so by now. Unfortunately, I happen to be a convicted blasphemer, so I doubt I would be particularly welcome. What if I argued for a pardon? He clicks his tongue and I try very hard not to wince. He notices anyway. Apologies, Jalisa Vida. Bad habit on my part. Anyway, to answer your question, I must still decline. I'm afraid I struggle to trust the gratitude your superiors are capable of displaying. Shit. Well, there goes my first idea on how to get past the undead army. Can we run for it? I rack my memory, trying to figure out how far Skyhope is from here. On an entirely unrelated note, however, Jeremiah muses, I find myself impressed with Vida's ability to create a powerful horde, but her creativity is somewhat lacking. Especially in terms of complicated command structure. The idea of using relatively intelligent Risen as a sort of commanding officer that the dregs follow and copy enables her to give much more complicated attack and defend commands as standing orders. However, her army is still only as intelligent as a series of animals. It doesn't seem to be doing anything more complicated than attacking any monsters that approach. It's unlikely to react to any humans leaving. Not unless they had some way to tell a prisoner apart from a non-prisoner. I say. I see. That's very interesting, Jeremiah. Thank you. It's a good thing I'm already in the habit of not reacting to things, because otherwise I'd be screaming as loudly on the outside as I am on the inside. I can't believe I'm doing this. But I can't not do this. I'm not going to just wait around for someone else to decide if she'll kill my comrades. It's my obligation to take that option off the table entirely. There's a good chance we'll all die. I know that. But while I may wake up helpless every morning, I also wake up a Templar. If they want to risk it, I'll help them. They are the ones in the most danger. Well, the last person I feel the need to talk to. I spot and grab a few bugs on the way, since I know she'll like them. Jalisa Vida. Melissa calls happily, collapsing into a puddle and quickly flowing over to me before reforming her humanoid shape. Hello. You've been so busy, we've barely talked. She giggles. Jalisa Vida. She repeats. It's such a big, fun name. I'm so happy I can finally remember it. Hey, Melissa, I greet her back, holding out the bugs in my hands. I brought you a little snack. Ooh, yummy. Thank you. Slowly and carefully, she moves her hand over mine, pressing herself over the insects and sucking them up into her body without making contact with my skin. Good. Melissa cheers, her golden body glistening as the struggling bugs dissolve inside her. How are you, Jalisa Vida? I've been great. This trip has been so fun. I'm so happy you brought Miss Vita to help me. I grimace. Yeah, for sure, I allow. Though that's actually what I wanted to ask you about. Can you keep a secret? Ooh, I used to be great at keeping secrets, Melissa giggles. Not as good now, but I'll try my best. Oh wow, ouch, I say, but I laugh a little. If she can, why shouldn't I? Well, I'm actually sort of leaving. With a few people. Very soon. Her fake silhouette eyes go wide with surprise. Oh, no. Really? I'll miss you very much. Well, that's what I wanted to ask, I say. Do you want to go with me? To Skyhope? As I'd feared, she doesn't react with excitement. But what I didn't expect is for her to shrink down and look scared. I still can't stay solid very well, she murmurs, starting to nervously and very literally wring her hands together. So I hurt people I touch. That's okay, I promise her. You're getting better at it, it won't be a problem forever. We'll find a way to keep you and everyone else safe until then. She takes a step back, no longer looking my way. Miss Vita says if Templars other than you find me, they'll make me stop eating again. And I'll forget. I freeze. I'm sure if we explain it to them it'll be fine. You eat bugs. That doesn't hurt anyone. Then why didn't they feed me any? She whispers. They had to know. Nah, I don't think they did, I dismiss. There was nothing in your file about eating, I shut up. There was nothing in Vita's file about her eating souls either, was there? Animavrism is recognized as a thing that exists, but I've never really heard much about it beyond that. And I worked with Melissa for barely a month before having my bright idea to just feed her live meals. What are the odds literally no one else tried that in well over a decade of incarceration? Is Miss Vita wrong? Melissa asks me. She sounds hopeful, like she wants it to not be true. I want it, too. There's no way it can be true, right? To keep a child contained in a state of dementia for that long. That can't be on purpose. That would be beyond fucked up, it would be against everything the church stands for. For fuck's sake, Animavrism healed her soul, nothing else. This is to just be a mistake. But am I willing to risk Melissa's life over it? Would you like to stay here? I ask her. It's not an answer to her question, but she interprets it as one. Perhaps rightly so. Yes, she nods. Will I see you again? Count on it, I promise. Eat well and remember me. That beautiful, golden smile returns. Okay, she agrees. Swallowing all that panic, I find and relocate Ice Guy, praying to the Watcher that the Revenants don't just randomly wander back towards the prisoners. Ostensibly, Ultrix is the one supposed to be guarding them, but in practice it has always been Vita's ability to keep track of everyone at once that keeps everybody in line. Either way, they should hopefully be used to assuming the prisoners are dealt with and not get overly suspicious for at least I don't know, 5 minutes? Then I collect some cloaks from the supplies that can cover up the prisoner collars. Not to fool any guards, but to hopefully fool the dumbass and dead who likely don't have any other way to tell prisoners from non-prisoners. Every other part of the plan is just not a plan. I have to rely on none of the former prisoners wandering away from their separate camp and seeing us. I have to rely on none of the former staff wanting to rat us out as we very obviously start to leave. I have to rely on there not being some clever method to let dregs distinguish who is and isn't allowed to leave their circle. But as far as I know, we won't get another chance like this one. But maybe we will, and I'm screwing up everything. Who knows? Okay, I have maybe an eighth of a plan, I say, grabbing Victoria and the other 2 Templars whose names I do not actually know. But we have an opening. Do you want to go now? They look at me in surprise. Wait, seriously? Victoria hisses. That was fast. We thought you weren't going to. I work fast, I shrug. But I'm serious, I have no idea if this will work. I just got the dangerous people away from the starboard side, and I'm thinking maybe if you cover your collars the zombies will think you aren't prisoners. That's it. That's what I've got. but I figure we need to do this now, because there's no way to know when Vito will come back. The three of them look at each other, and they all nod. Fuck it, Victoria agrees. Let's go. We unfortunately don't have a way to remove the collars, but it's pretty easy to find something sharp to cut their other bindings with. Then we throw the cloaks on and, with held breath, wade through multiple deadly layers of undead monsters. The beasts come in all shapes and sizes, but each of them stands with utter stillness as we pick our way carefully around them, soon breaking free from their circle and passing out of sight. Why the fuck did that work? Victoria hisses. Risen are stupid, I shrug. Dregs are stupider. We automatically descend into tactical silence from there on out. We have some basic, if incredibly shitty weapons, mostly sticks and clubs, plus we're all unarmored. Any sort of fight would be catastrophic, which means every step we take is my responsibility. It's horribly nerve-wracking, but while I'm an awful fighter by Templar standards, I suppose I can admit I'm an above-average scout. Avoiding confrontation is pretty much my primary skill in all walks of life, when you think about it. I move at as quick of a pace as I can without feeling like I'm guessing our path, and the farther we travel the easier it gets. We are, after all, approaching Skyhope, which means we're moving through the part of the forest that gets more hunter patrols than any other area by far. Dangerous monsters are relatively uncommon, and many of the ones still around have learned to fear humans. When we're about to approach the 1-hour mark of our journey, however, everything predictably goes wrong in the worst way possible. I hear it. The sound I've been afraid of from the start of this escape plan. A cacophony of pounding steps, approaching us from behind. The horde advances on us. Run, I order, and we all move, leaving our fate to the Watcher. All Templars have at least enhancer training, so we can move pretty fucking fast. But as I direct our course, desperately trying to avoid at least the biggest threats between us and our goal, the sound of the army behind us still manages to gain ground because they don't have to swerve after us. There are hundreds of them. They just have to run in a straight line towards Skyhope, and they'll get us on the way. They won't slow down or get tired, and any monster they encounter will just be added to their ranks. Because leading them at the front is their self-proclaimed queen, and I doubt she's happy. A foul scent carries itself on the wind, attacking my nose with murderous intent and forcing me to rely only on echolocation to chart the way forward. But what else can we do? Fire in my limbs and daggers in my lungs, we push forward with the speed of hunted prey. Because that's what we are, all we are, in the face of her fury. When my ears finally pick up the open and beautiful sound of the forest's edge, I know we're not close enough. We're going to have contact, I puff, and move us to a direct course. After all, it's run into a monster in front of us or be trampled by the army of them from behind. A furious and hungry centipede stabs at us as we run past its nest, shrieking with murderous intent and giving Victoria a deep gash through her arm before we outpace it, but I can tell that still won't be enough. We're slowing down too quickly. Our bodies and souls can't handle this for much longer. So it's still over 100 yards to the edge of the forest when the army of undead overtakes us. First come the birds. Many of them were just normal, harmless animals in life, but they peck and tear at our skulls with unbridled hatred as larger, deadlier threats swoop down and demand our attention. I swat one out of the sky with my makeshift club, but by then the faster land monsters are biting at us from behind, catzels and arrowhounds and talon kings. One bites hard into my calf, twisting and trying to knock me to the ground, but Victoria and one of the other Templars smash its skull with well-placed strikes as I stumble. We're swinging left and right, beating away attackers as we continue to make ground towards Skyhope, but there are 4 of us and 400 of them. It's a surprise to us all when we actually burst out of the trees, our destination now visible in front of us. Screams are up ahead as wide-eyed farm workers see an explosion of undead flow out from the forest behind us, shrieking for blood and death. The walls of Skyhope spot us immediately, the alarm sounding ahead to mobilize the army. Never has Skyhope felt like a more perfect name for our capital city than now, when we know reinforcements are coming. We'll soon be seeing soldiers pour out from the gate, coming to our rescue. Even as we get cut off, the horde overtaking and moving to encircle us, that knowledge along with the fear of death keeps us swinging. Or maybe it just made us foolish, because we didn't think to be afraid when the zombies stopped attacking us until after she emerged from their midst. Dressed in a black cloak with a blindfold over her eyes, I can still see her scowl furiously, glaring at us with open hatred. She's clearly the source of the pungent smell, as it's so overpoweringly horrid at this range I have no choice but to plug my nose or suffer an episode. She never smelled like this before, but I don't have time to think about what changed as we get locked into her kill range. She strokes our souls, and I'm filled with a frigid terror so all-consuming that I drop to my knees. "So," she says blandly. "You really went and did it, huh?" I swallow. "We're not dead. I still have work to do. Can you of all people really blame us for staging a prison break?" I joke desperately. She TSKs once, and it's almost a laugh. A partial win, perhaps. "How about I kick the shit out of you for 2 years while demanding you kill your family, and then you can get back to me on that," she sneers. "I can't believe you four got just far enough to be annoying." "I was trying to get my friends to safety," I plead. I know she can empathize with that, of all things. Get everyone home, convince everyone to leave you alone as best I can, and make sure Victoria can have her baby somewhere safe. You know, the really funny thing is that I might have been about to let you do that, Vida sighs, glowering up at the army approaching from the distance behind us. Her own undead forces turn and, to my surprise, start to leave, flowing back into the forest. There's now nothing at our backs but freedom. Not that any of us are willing to risk running away from Vida. Then just do that, I beg. Let us go. You can show everyone in Skyhope, right now, that you're merciful. That you can be reasoned with, that you can be an ally. What it would show them, Vida glowers, is that when I make demands they don't really mean anything. That I can just be walked all over, as usual. She clenches her fist so hard she starts shaking, and I'm struck for a moment with a reminder of how tiny they are. Like a child's. I was considering it. She snaps again. I don't fucking know why. So at least there's one good thing that will come out of this. I don't have to make myself a liar. What is she? Oh, no. No, no, no. Vida, wait. I shout, jumping to my feet. In an instant, she's on me. A shattering kick to my ribs and I'm knocked on my back. A second stomp lands where the first strike did, and I hold back a cry of pain as her boot holds me down. All three of my fellow Templars move to attack her immediately, an expertly coordinated strike from all sides. They were ready for this. Only you, Vida tells me again, and they die. Chapter 126 I hold 3 Templar souls in my tendrils as their former bodies fall around me, taking in the feeling of Jaleesa's wide-eyed horror. It's a bit frustrating to look at. What did she expect? Part of me is fucking furious, but mostly I'm just tired. The whiplash of it, of finally seeing Penelope and my family again, of finally having a fucking home again. And yet now I'm watching the Vulcan army come at me. I want to scream, but I don't have the energy. Also annoying is the fact that I don't really have any beef with the Vulcan army. They've always left me alone and presumably focused on doing useful things like defending the walls, killing Hiveric soldiers when they used to drop, and kicking the shit out of any monsters that emerge from the forest. But if Penelope is right about how much the church has their claws in everything, and she's pretty much always right, the army probably has a beef with me. What else is fucking new? I sent my horde back into the forest as soon as I corralled the Templars I needed to catch, and hopefully that will make people a bit less aggressive in my general direction, but I know full well I'm already fucked. I've been seen. All of Skyhope is going to know about the necromancer in the forest by the end of the day. I could absolutely just turn around and leave, but if I do that I'm retreating, showing weakness. It'd be basically inviting them to come after me. So if I want the advantage I need to deal with this problem now, and I'm going to be as subtle as a hammer to the skull. But before that, I suppose I have the problem of these Templar souls to deal with. I'm tempted to turn Victoria into a revenant and make her life miserable for a while, but I'm pretty sure if I put her back into her body now she'll have to suffer through her own corpse leaking out a slow, excruciating miscarriage. I hate this woman, sure, but she doesn't fucking deserve that. So I eat her instead, and her 2 Templar friends for good measure. And I gotta say, holy shit, it feels good. I didn't really have much time to appreciate it back in the prison, but Templar souls are pretty damn big. The eye of my core splits open, teeth gnashing from within the pupil as I slurp down my former enemies. Eating just one is a fucking feast, and I flex my tendrils with delight as all 3 of them get absorbed into me, dissolved into raw power and added to my own. No, Jalisa whispers. Vita, no. I glance down at where she is on her knees, staring in horror at my soul. I told you, the Mist Watcher does this, I grunted her. It smashes people. It eats them. If that's an act of divinity, then stay on your knees and pray to me. If not, come on. I have an army to deal with. Predictably, she just gives me a stupid look rather than get up or pray, her soul a complete, chaotic mess. Ugh. I guess I broke her, but I'm kind of struggling to give a damn right now. This is, after all, her fucking fault. Just like Penelope said, I handed her everything she needed to screw me on a silver platter and she took it. But unfortunately, I promised to let her live, and I stand by that, so with a sigh I grab her and start dragging her towards the incoming Vulcan army. Damn it, I don't know how to handle this. What would Penelope do in this situation? Besides make me smell like someone shat all over me with onion and capsaicin diarrhea to disguise her involvement, I mean. Probably something dramatic. Absent-mindedly, I glance around and spot a discarded scythe on the ground, no doubt left by one of the fleeing farm workers when my zombies emerged. I suppose I'd be better off with a weapon, huh? I pick it up, feeling the awkward heft and weight, glowering at the blunt far edge and the odd angle of the blade. This is actually kinda garbage, but it's better than nothing, I suppose. It's still a somewhat dangerous stick I can use to parry if needed. I consider snapping the scythe blade off and just keeping the stick, but the more I think about it the more I like keeping the scythe as is. Not because it's a useful polearm, but because it's symbolic. It's not a weapon, but a worker's tool. Something used by slaves to do highly dangerous jobs, risking their lives next to the forest just to fucking feed all the thankless shits that engorge themselves on the results. I have endless respect for reapers of grain in much the same way that I, as a hunter, worked as a reaper of souls. Plus, any who oppose me will be cut through as easily as wheat. I quickly spin the scythe once, getting a feel for it as I approach the army with Jalisa in my other hand. It's not elegant, but it's heavy and sharp and I have strength to spare. It will do. Now then, let's see. The army itself doesn't really seem particularly dangerous. There are, maybe a couple hundred people total coming for me, right now? All of them feel weak compared to the Templars I've been dealing with lately, which makes sense. Templars often poach powerful people out of the army to fill their ranks. There are a few impressive people I sense, a couple even at the lower end of the high Templar power scale, but after engorging myself on a number of extremely powerful souls in the prison I think I can still yank them. The question will be, can I get close, and the answer is, well, we'll see. If I'm lucky this won't even be a fight. I don't expect to be lucky, but even I sometimes catch a break. At least I don't feel Goldrick coming after me yet. The Vulcan army is trained to fight with spears and shields, armored in thick quilted gambazons with cotton breastplates, falds, and greaves. Lighter and cheaper than Templar full plate, it still probably does the trick against normal weapons, but I don't really know and don't really need to know. I pull out an old friend, giving her a thankful squeeze as I lodge her inside my new scythe. Hey, Nora, I whisper to her, and her soul hums with love. I'm going to try to talk my way out of this one. But I'm counting on you if I fuck up again, okay? I feel Jalisa hear our conversation, one I didn't really intend for her ears. She snaps back to herself and struggles to get to her feet as I continue to tug her along. I yank her upwards and let go when she catches her balance, curling a tentacle around her soul like a hook to guide her instead. She quickly learns to match my pace. Eventually, we stop and I let the army march their formation the rest of the way to me. I don't want to get too far from the forest in case I need to beat a hasty retreat, though I amusingly note some of the souls in the army seem to think I'm making a power move by forcing them to come to me. About 50 yards out, one of them finally has a danger sense long enough to feel me, and immediately advises an emergency halt. The officers listen, and the army stops. I grin. They aren't totally incompetent, at least. Identify yourself. Someone from the army calls at me, their voice amplified with kinemacy. Are you controlling the swarm of undead witnessed from the walls? I am, I call back, twisting my tendrils into a spell to amplify my voice as well. Shit, I didn't really think about what to say here. Sorry for the scare? They are not quite sure what to make of that, which I guess is kind of a win. What did Penelope say? Putting people off balance is a good way to start challenging preconceptions? Necromancy is illegal on Vulcan soil. The guy speaking for the army eventually shouts back. Oh, my bad. I respond. Is it okay if I just leave, then? Silence. Not even the local wildlife makes a peep, though that's increasingly normal around me and my zombie army. I mean it, I'll just go, I repeat. I have no qualms with Vodka or its army. You murdered 3 people, and you practice forbidden soul magic, the army guy states. We cannot, in good conscience, allow you to leave. Ah, well, that's going to be a problem for you then, I answer. Because you can't stop me from leaving. Inquisitor, if you would? I turn to Jelisaveta, who is giving me almost as mortified a look as she gave me after I murdered all her co-workers at the prospect of speaking publicly on my behalf. I extend my sound amplification spell over her anyway, which causes her to immediately cover her ears. I'm sure she can hear regardless. Inquisitor Jelisaveta, in your experience being my warden and subsequently my prisoner, what will happen if this detachment of the Vulcan army fights me? She glances to the army, then back to me. Then she clears her throat and winces at the sound of it. I believe it would be a mistake, Jalisa says, and I make sure her voice carries far, very far. Enough to make sure the army hears and more. I know the military protocol for necromancers ties your hands here, officers. But I urge you, do not treat this woman as a dangerous learnmage. Treat her as you would a sated dragon, and leave her be. Now I'm releasing her to you, I announce, to Jalisa's immediate surprise. I'm not a fucking conomancer and I haven't messed with her head. Do whatever you need to do to prove it, then listen to her advice. I push Jalisa forward, since she seems a bit too confused to do it on her own. What, does she think I want to keep her after that stunt? Fuck no, I don't want to see her face again. Because I know exactly what's going to happen now, don't I? If they're smart they're going to send Gildra after me, and if they're dumb I'm about to make a whole lot of corpses. There's no fucking way they agree to this. They do, at least, allow Jalisa to cross the distance between us, then immediately cuff and gag her in case she's not actually a prisoner, which I guess is pretty sensible considering I'm a known animancer. Still no Templar response either, which is weird. Gildra must be on the other side of the city, but what about all the other Templars that should be mobilizing at the report of a hostile necromancer? Not that I'm hostile, per se, but, you know. Anyway, it looks like their tactical officers are going to come after me now that the hostage is safe. Fucking called it. I sigh, not sure whether to be relieved or disappointed that they're only sending the elites and pulling back the normal troops. Should I just rush over to them and start killing people to make a point? On one hand, I don't want to because I don't want to kill anyone that's not a threat. On the other hand, I have a very shitty record with mercy and it might be time to just let loose on some bitches. But again, I'm just tired. I struggle to give much of a fuck as the 3 strongest tactical officers start moving to surround me. I raise an eyebrow at the closest one, since I'm pretty sure I recognize him. Remus? I drawl. Is that you? Wait, he mutters, finally placing my voice. Vita? Yep, I grunt. How have you been, boss? The other two tactical officers seem to get a bit nervous about this casual banter as they somewhat uselessly move in a wide circle around me. One of them starts creeping closer, which is going to be amusing, I guess. I have been well enough, I suppose, Remus answers hesitantly, the air growing thick with mana as he draws his sword. After Lisha I was sentenced to serve as a slave in the army for 3 years, but it's mostly just the same work as before. I follow orders and kill monsters, so it's rather my forte. Cool. I see they gave you that sword back. I suppose I'm still considered its most skilled wielder, even after all these years, he shrugs. I acknowledge. You know, I was promised a reward for the whole mess at Lisha and I never fucking got it. So I think I'll take the sword. His face folds at that, immediately getting serious. I'm afraid I can't part with it. You were such a promising hunter, Vita. When and why did you turn to animancy? I was always a necromancer, I answer blandly. Just never by choice. I'm some kind of human experiment or watcher-kin or some shit. I just had a talent I needed to use, and found the best place for it, protecting the city. And you know, I can still do that. I'm afraid that's not my call to make, my former teacher answers noncommittally. But you wouldn't make the call even if you could, I say for him, and it's not a question. Well then, you can thank my daughter, because a promise to let her meet you again is the only reason you're going to walk away alive. He raises an eyebrow. You have a daughter? Adoption runs in the family, I say simply, and immediately get attacked by his allies. Well, for a generous interpretation of attacked, anyway. One of the tactical officers tries to cast something on me rather than at me, which is an important distinction because my magic resistance is absolutely bonkers. With what is now a pretty basic churning of mana in my body, I can obliterate any foreign spells that try to manifest inside me. That's got nothing on the other guy, though. He dashes forward to fight me in melee, so I just yoink him and step out of the way as his corpse face plants, skidding to a stop at my feet. She's excited to see you, I continue, so I hope we can meet up again sometime. Remus doesn't continue the banter, responding only with a slash to the air that sends a blade of destructive aromancy my way. I've seen this before, a lifetime ago when we fought the burrow hounds. That attack isn't just a cutting technique. It exploded on impact and annihilated countless numbers of the little monsters. I'm not going to take my chances with it. I dodge to the side, letting the attack scream past me and explode into the forest. I grit my teeth as I feel a number of zombies shatter, despite being behind a few lines of trees. I don't have time to be frustrated, though, as before my first dodge is even finished another wind blade is flying at my head. Shit, I don't have time to dodge. I cover my face and the impact smashes into me, Nora's talent meeting the magical cutting edge with a furious roar. My revenant and friend is stronger, but the projectile still detonates with a brutal amount of force, sending me flying through the air, an easy target for follow-ups. I thrust mana into my tendrils and rapidly weave the most basic spell I know, pumping it with range and power. A retina-scalding flash of light burns in front of Remus' face for a fraction of a second, forcing him on the defensive long enough for me to safely land and rush forward to make up lost ground. Nora's reinforcement talent protects me from cuts and stabs, but absorbing the shock of landing after being flung 30 feet through the air is all me. Normally, when people talk about the soul empowering the body, they apparently are talking about instinctive use of enhancer abilities. Something about flesh anima saturation that the body needs to adapt to in order to not injure itself. What they don't mean is having a strong soul physically alters the structure of your body to be superhuman. But that's what I thought they meant and that's what's been happening to me. I'm apparently just a well of natural biomancy in the same way that I'm a well of natural necromancy. The problem is that I can't control any of it, so I get stupid shit like thigh eyes. But I guess it's not like I know what I'd want to use it for beyond being stronger in the first place. Another wind strike smashes me in the face and I remember that combat probably isn't the best time to muse about this. The blade of air cuts me to the bone, gets blocked by my skull and then literally explodes in my face, sending a layer of my skin, blood, and muscle showering in every direction as I'm blasted heels over head through the air once more. Branches of soul snake up through my face to stymie the blood flow, holding together the side of my head that's now little more than a dripping, gore-covered skull. I'm down one eye, and unfortunately it's not the one in my temple. Ugh, my depth perception is all sideways now. I detonate shockwaves of kinemacy behind me to try and arrest my momentum in the air, but I still slam into the ground and bounce before I manage to get to my feet, barely jumping out of the way of another attack. "Oh," I grunt. Ever the professional, Remus doesn't respond or hesitate as he continues to send more slashes my way, though at this point I'm far enough away from him that they're relatively easy to dodge. Which isn't actually good, since I need to be close in order to do any real damage to him. I prep some of the projectile shards I used back in the prison and toss them his way. Lacking soul sight, he can't see them, but he does seem to feel them with his danger sense despite the blaring alarm that is ringing in his metaphorical ears. He dodges blind, which surprisingly works, but still forces him to slow down his offense a little. I'll need a bit more than this, though. Fortunately, I've collected a new kind of projectile. Capsules and Flyer Squad B, attack my target. Risen explode from the forest at my command. One group sleek and low to the ground while the other ascends high to attack from above. These undead might be fast enough to dodge an airstrike or two, but in the more likely event that they don't, they're still at least taking a few attacks in my place. Unfortunately, Remus just continues to focus on me while the other tactical officer, the one I had been ignoring because his talent doesn't work on me, swaps focus to slaughtering my undead, and he's good at it. The man is as dangerous as Ultrix. One look at his target and it just implodes, crushed into a tiny, wet ball of dead flesh in the blink of an eye. Both of my squads are going to be destroyed long before they reach Remus. With a resigned sigh, I start throwing more gnashing shards at my old teacher to distract him. Gnashing shards are the name I decided for the hungry little buggers as I alter course towards Mr. Implodey. It's much easier to avoid Remus projectiles when I'm not trying to run towards him, so I start making ground a lot faster. Tossing a bunch of shards his way helps as well, but I hate doing it. It feels like such a waste to toss bits of my own soul at him as nothing more than a distraction. I can't even retrieve them if they miss. They'll probably just keep flying until the Mistwatcher nabs them. Once I'm almost in range to attack Mr. Implodey, though, Remus decides to start taking hits in order to keep me back. And I am entirely okay with that. Remus winces in pain as a pair of my gnashing shards latch onto his soul and start slowly trying to chew their way through him. We trade a few more projectiles this way, and I come out on top, barely getting close enough to grab and yank out the soul of Mr. Implodey. Then, sensing opportunity, I quickly shard his soul and put it back in. If Remus doesn't put down his sword and surrender in the next 10 seconds, I order, making sure I'm loud enough for everyone to hear, "Kill everyone you see." Then my brand new revenant explodes, Remus having tossed a wind strike our way before I even finished talking. Man, what a dick. His ally's soul is irrevocably shattered, rapidly disintegrating into dust as Nora was apparently too busy protecting me to make the corpse invulnerable. "Hey, so fun fact," I shout at him. "The Mistwatcher can't collect the souls from destroyed revenants." I smirk as I feel that shake him, using the opening to get closer. Thanks to the shards I've lodged in his soul, he's starting to slow down, all that power slowly leaking away and facing the limits of the 60-year-old body it's trapped in. Soon, I'm in range to soul yoink, but I don't want to kill him, so I just grab and twist, trying to debilitate from raw pain. It's not as effective as it sometimes is, but I manage to slip into a range where he can't use that damn wind blast without catching himself in the explosion. His enchanted sword has more than one trick to it, though. A sharpness enchantment. An aerodynamics enchantment. A momentum enchantment. Remus' blade is, to my understanding, a Vulcan heirloom wrought from the very meteor that created Skyhope Crater. It was designed explicitly to kill monsters of legend, beasts with scales harder than steel and magic beyond mortal capacity. When the blade strikes, it strikes with the weight of a nation behind it, carving through whatever stands in its way. Unless, of course, that thing is Nora. My deceased friend laughs in a melody only I can hear, pride flaring as I use her to parry a legendary royal armament. I redirect as much of the force of the blow as I can, but still stagger under the impact enough for Remus to follow up. He's fucking fast, still faster than me after all this time. I can follow his movements, but my body still can't keep up. My soul can. Tendrils move to intercept the blade, and though they cannot touch it, they can pour my mana into the depths of the steel. It happily accepts me, yanking me down into it like I'm falling from a cliff. The Watcher mana inside fights and obliterates me, but I sacrifice more of my essence to temporarily overpower it, the blade singing blue for a beautiful moment. I feel it trying to pull me through its engraved pathways, twist me into spells and use me to bring its carved will onto the world, but I resist. So, for a crucial moment, its enchantments are gone. It's just a lump of metal. Remus is startled as, before impact, his sword suddenly feels heavier yet swings weaker. His attack catches me on the exposed cheekbone of my face, still a heavy blow but barely chipping bone. While he's still surprised, I smash Nora's handle through his helmet. The fight is over quickly after that. I knock him to the ground and wrest the blade from his hands, drooling internally over the feast. He tries to keep striking at me, punching and kicking to the limited extent he can manage it from the ground, but it's mostly just annoying. I'm going to break your limbs now, I inform him, and then I start stomping. He finally stops moving after I remove the option. You're annoyingly persistent, I grumble, pulling the gnashing shards from his soul to reabsorb them. They are quite delicious, having bloated themselves on bits of Remus. You don't stop attacking a monster until the end, he chokes out. Didn't I teach you that? I snort. Yet what a shitty mentor you turned out to be, I complain. You just kicked my ass around for a few weeks, needed to get yourself saved, and then tried and failed to kill me. I should have stuck to being a thief. At least then I could have hung out more with Lynn. Well, now that the takeoffs are taken care of, the small group sent out to deal with me is retreating back to the walls while reinforcements muster. Including, I now notice, Vigor and other Templars. That's my cue to leave, I guess, but I need to decide what to do with this sword. On one hand, I want to keep it because it's powerful as fuck and generally really cool. It is a potent ranged attack that I could conceivably use to supplement my distance weakness, assuming I actually learn how to use it well. I don't have any two-handed sword training at all, but I could certainly get some. On the other hand, though, this is a national treasure. If I just run off with it, people are absolutely going to come after me to get it back. So instead, perhaps I can be a bit more dramatic. I plant Nora into the ground, then move her out of the scythe and into one of my gloves so I can safely grip the blade. Pouring my mana back into its depths, I remove its enchantments so they don't cause any chaos effects while I flex my limbs and start to bend the blade. It actually bends a lot more than I expected. Chitin blades tend to snap long before they get the kind of bend I'm putting in this thing. Still, it's eventually too much for the poor sword, and Remus' anguish at watching its destruction is almost as loud as the metallic snap as I break it in half. I'm leaving, I announce, projecting the sound as loud as I'm able. I don't want to fight. So listen to wisdom and just let sleeping dragons lie. I turn away, biting off a chunk of the sword so my soul can lap it up. Come after me again, I promise, and it's war. Chapter 127. Wow. Vigor sure moves fast when she's angry. After kicking the shit out of the army, I did my best to dramatically and casually stroll back to the forest, but before long the Templars finally deigned to deploy and sent Vigor flying through the air in my general direction. I had to actually start hoofing it pretty fast in order to get under tree cover before she reached me. Unfortunately, however, simply breaking line of sight doesn't seem to have deterred First Lady High Templar Vigor the Annihilator much at all. You little shit. She roars from above me. No one beats up my exes except me. I feel a spell tingle above my head and immediately reach tentacles up to send out a pulse of my mana, destroying as much of it as I can. I shouldn't have bothered. The vast majority of the treetops above me still burst into flames, blanketing the forest with oppressive heat. I'm getting flushed out, and making loud mana annihilations is only likely to reveal my position. I counteract this as best I can by immediately changing direction and crafting kinemancy spells in random locations far away from me to mimic the sound of my mana annihilation. Likewise, I throw my voice, projecting it in the opposite direction from where I'm going. Turns out I can still give orders this way. Bomber squad up. A swarm of undead birds shoot into the air, moving to circle above and around Vigor to keep her attention. She mostly ignores them, spraying the forest with a frankly absurd quantity of fireballs. The ground is wet and the trees tend to not burn well at all, but the sheer amount of heat being tossed around is enough for the fire to rage for as long as Vigor wills it. I dodge and weave as best I can, knowing that Nora's talent will certainly prevent the flames from damaging my clothes, but will do very little against the threat of being cooked alive inside them. Vigor is blind firing, which makes it pretty easy to dodge her attacks, but she's frustratingly good at throwing her attacks ahead of me, in the directions she knows I want to flee. She's forcing me to slow down in order to avoid getting hit, and it's only a matter of time before I'm out of cover and in her attack range. Fine. My turn. I snap my fingers, and responding to a prior verbal command to do so, the bird monsters under my command dive on her from above. She turns to obliterate them, but tries to make a single flame wall to destroy all the birds at once. Unfortunately for her, when she kills the first one, it erupts into a burst of my mana, as planned. The others pass through the resulting break in the spell, and the High Templar's helmet is hammered by a half-dozen furious raptors. It doesn't shatter the chitin, but I bet it still hurts like a bitch. Unsurprisingly, this isn't enough to make her stop, her fingers flashing at incredible speeds as dozens of mana concentrations pop up fucking everywhere. I grit my teeth and stick a tendril through every one in my range, popping them before her cast can finish. But as I'd feared, this seems to direct her to my exact location. The surviving mana signatures manifest as balls of flame that converge on me from multiple angles. I leap around them as best I can, batting a few away with Nora but still ultimately taking burns to my arm and torso. If she stays at the range she's at and keeps using this trick, I'll be in trouble. Thankfully, though, she moves to fly directly at me. I try to figure out why as I finish munching down half of Rima's sword, feeling the metal flow down through my mana channels and pull more of me into the world. Then I twitch in annoyance as said mana swarms the nascent eyeball on the side of my waist, feeling nerve passageways rapidly shoot up the side of my body and extend towards my brain as the useless orb of sight grows to completion. Damn it, buddy, now is not the time. On the upside, Vigor's advance puts her in range for gnashing shard attacks, so I pull some out and start tossing them her way. She dodges much less effectively than Rima's, and I nail her with 2 on the first volley. Nice. Her giant soul is a much bigger target, so that helps. Unfortunately, being giant means that it's going to take a lot longer for my shards to start causing appreciable damage. Once again, I feel mana signatures flare up all around me, but this time it's all outside my tentacle range. Damn it, this woman learns too fast. Walls of frozen air solidify into existence in a wide circle around me, locking me in the middle. Above them, all the heat stolen from the air has condensed into a massive fireball hanging above my head, ready to drop and encompass the entire circle. Shit. This is insane. I could destroy the walls, but it will take too much time. I'm an easy target if I try to jump over them or if I leap up to disrupt the spell. Do I send zombies after her as a distraction? How do I? Wait. She's not dropping on me, and she doesn't intend to. What? Last chance to surrender, kid, Vigor growls at me, and I don't find the bluff even remotely convincing. She wants to kill me, I can tell that much. But she's not going to. She can't, as much as that idea pisses her off. You've been ordered to capture me alive, I realize, grinning at her. You think I'm not pissed enough to disobey orders? She fires back, but I already felt my words hit home. She's been neutered. Vigor the Annihilator isn't allowed to annihilate. This is an opportunity. Well, breakers, to me. I order. My heavier risen move to tackle the walls of ice hemming me in. The brutal cold might harm them a bit, but it's not like they have to worry about frostbite. While they slam their bodies into the ice walls, I continue forming and tossing gnashing shards towards Vigor, watching with satisfaction as the giant ball of flame gets launched into the forest away from me rather than dropped on my head. It incinerates a number of my dregs, but I suppose there's always more where those ones came from. Come on, Vigor, if I can kick Remus ass when he's giving his all, I can fucking ruin you if you don't use your best tricks, I sneer at her. Besides, don't you have ours to worry about? My Wellbreaker squad then smashes a hole through Vigor's ice wall, and I start moving towards them as they widen it. Vigor, however, sends a jet of flame down at them, and they get incinerated. Did ours escape? She asks me bluntly. He did, I confirm, seeing no reason to hide it. He killed a High Templar, then himself, and his soul flew off. I don't feel him anywhere near Skyhope, but he's somewhere. Unless your god ate him, I guess. She casts another spell at me, and the shattered shards of ice around the opening my ashed Wellbreakers made suddenly launch towards me. I cover my face and otherwise ignore them, letting Nora handle it. As I leap through the small gap in the wall, Vigor dives towards me, the tiny opening suddenly becoming the focal point for an absurdly powerful targeted spell. I can only assume she dives closer because she is exclusively a learned mage, and for a learned magic you have to balance the amount of power you put into a spell between range and strength. There's an important distinction, however, between spells that you cast on a specific person or at a specific point, such as the ice walls she made, and projectile spells, such as the wind blasts from Remus' former sword. A projectile spell creates a projectile next to the caster and then gives that projectile momentum, so all of the actual magic occurs at close range and the spell isn't subject to the power versus distance problem. On the downside, they have to actually be aimed, while non-projectile spells just happen wherever you want them to. Plus, most spells can't be projectiles at all. You can't create, say, the concept of holding someone in place with kineticism and then launch it at somebody. You have to cast a spell like that on the person directly. So basically, she's rushing closer to put as much raw power as possible into whatever capture spell she's casting. Yet it just doesn't matter. With all the metal I've been munching lately, I can still easily obliterate it. A noise like an explosion erupts from the monoclash, and I emerge from Vigor's trap uncaught. But not before she flies face first into a spray of gnashing shards. Good trade on my end. I rush deeper into the forest as my birds start diving for another round of harassment. This time she wises up and kills each of them with different spells, but that distracts her long enough for me to get under more thick tree cover, blocking her line of sight to my location once again. Are you with ours, you little shit? Vigor calls after me. Fuck no. I call back. I barely even know who he is. Where is he? I would fucking tell you if I knew. Go bother him and leave me alone. I toss yet more shards up at Vigor and start really hoping she backs off soon. After making an army and subsequently fighting one, I feel like I might actually be starting to get low on safe bits of my soul to break off. I would definitely be out by now if not for all the powerful people I've been eating lately. Thankfully, I've now tagged Vigor with 11 gnashing shards, and without animancy I don't think there's anything she can do to remove them. As long as I keep running and keep myself from getting caught, I'll eventually chew through something important. Shit, now I almost hope she keeps chasing me. Such a huge fucking soul. And doesn't she also have metal in her head? I start to salivate at the thought of it. Unfortunately, as soon as I start looking forward to it she starts to back off, pulling out a tiny bead of metal and speaking into it. The speaking quickly advances into frustrated grumbling and eventually yelling, before finally she turns around and rockets off back to Skyhope. Oh, well. I suppose it's a little disappointing that I won't be able to eat Vigor today, but I suppose it's actually more likely that, if I get her close to death, she would just kill me first. I'm not arrogant enough to think she can't. She just wasn't going to, for some reason. I store Nora's soul back in my body as I think about that. It has to be the Epsilon thing. The Templars must know that ours can survive his body's death, and no one other than an Animancer would be able to damage his soul. If ours is killed, he just gets away scot-free unless someone like me is around, and the Templars don't employ people like me. Well, I guess they apparently employed a Vrothizo, actually, but maybe they just don't know she eats souls. Either way, the point is that I can understand there are good reasons to not want to kill ours. But why do they think I can do that? Maybe it's time to have that conversation with Ultrix when I get back. I don't know. The thought of learning about the secret past I apparently have weirds me out. It's literally never been something I've thought about before. Why would I? I've been an orphan girl forever. It's a pretty damn common story where I grew up. Sure, we would sometimes wonder who our parents were, but it's just sort of an idle what if reserved for days where we have the energy to ponder things like that. Actually meeting my mother in the flesh? I don't like it. I barely have any idea who Ultrix is and she still looks at me the same way Lynn does. It's creepy. Eventually I manage to get deep enough in the forest to where Penelope is waiting by herself, avoiding my little prisoner commune. I make my way to her, silently trekking the miles between us and killing everything in my way to eat and regain my strength, physically and spiritually. My body is as hungry as my soul right now, and while I'm worried that's just because it wants to grow another mockery of a tentacle, I have no intention of willingly starving myself for any reason. It's me, I call out once I'm close enough for Penelope to hear it. Which is surprisingly far away, nowadays. She's making herself into quite the neat little abomination. I know, she calls back. You have a rather distinct smell, as of recently. Yeah, can you maybe turn it off? Of course. I step into the same clearing as her, and I'm greeted with a wonderful smile. I try to smile back and accidentally start peeling more skin off my face as I tug on it from the inside, which actually kind of hurts. Penelope's expression quickly jumps to one of concern, rushing forwards to look at my face. Holy shit, Vita, she hisses. What happened? Oh, Remus hit me with his sword a few times, I dismiss. Why, is it bad? Is it? Ugh, she sighs, pinching the bridge of her nose. Nearly anyone else would be long dead. If not for your ability to pinch your blood vessels shut, you would have certainly died from hemorrhaging. And did you say this is from Remus' sword? As in our former mentor. This thing? I ask, lifting the half of the blade that I haven't eaten yet. It is incredibly difficult not to laugh at the sheer, all-consuming dumbfoundedness boiling in my girlfriend's soul. Vita, she says slowly, did you eat the Sword of Skyhope? I mean, yeah, I admit. I didn't want anyone to come after me trying to get that back. You ate it in front of witnesses? No, wait, back up. You actually took a blow from it and you're still standing. Watch his eyes, Vita, that blade has killed dragons. Oh yeah, that reminds me, what's a dragon? Penelope lets out a groaning noise through her nose. I realize you have never had any sort of formal or even arguably informal education, she grumbles, but you were a hunter for fuck's sake. Dragon Slayer Remus was your mentor. How the fuck did you go this long without knowing what a dragon is? Look Penelope, I don't really give a shit about things until they become relevant, and things don't usually become relevant unless they are attacking me or I can eat them. She snorts, stepping forward and casting a spell on the missing part of my face. And which of those categories do I reside in? She asks. Neither, I answer. You are far, far outside the realm of usually. Her wonderful grin returns, and she reaches out to cup my chin with her thumb and forefinger. Will you think it's weird if I tell you that seeing half your face as a bloody skull makes me desperately want to kiss you? She asks. Will you pout when I tell you I'm still not going to let you do that? I asked back. Come on, what's a dragon? She does indeed pout, but I am a dark and stoic queen of death and therefore immune. Conceptually they're not that exciting, she explains in a tone of voice I can only describe as a supremely regal whine. They are enormous winged lizards. Highly intelligent, For monsters almost always possess powerful talents. They live in the deep forest and rarely leave. Remus and his team had to kill one together shortly after the war because it was migrating towards us. Not that exciting, huh? I asked, scooping her up into Princess Carrie. You know, Jaleesa told the Vulcan I should be treated as a sated dragon. Does that mean I'm not exciting? She chuckles, leaning on my shoulder. What did you do with her, by the way? Inquisitor Jaleesa Veta, I mean. I don't see any new revenants with you. Jaleesa? I let her go. Vita, honey, no, Penelope chides, tapping her forefinger just under the exposed bone of my nostrils. She knows too much. You have to kill or control people that know too much. I promise not to kill her though, I grumble, sitting down under a tree and putting her in my lap. So my only way to control people went out the window too. She sighs, and I feel my face itch as she starts making it slowly regrow. I'll take care of it, she promises. Just please be careful. I set the whole city on fire when I let you out and now I have to extinguish it all. I nod glumly, letting tentacles snake out of my soul and wrap her up as she hugs me. I wish I was more like you, Penelope, I admit. Well, everybody does, she claims, pursing her lips in amusement. But in what way do you mean, exactly? You're good at this stuff, I explain. It's like a game to you. You know all the rules and all the best moves to play. But I always just flail around and make everything worse. I don't understand anything. I can see people's souls and they are still all a complete fucking mystery to me. I really do feel like I've never been human. I only realize I'm crying when I feel water leaking down my thigh and I instinctively think I've peed myself again. But no, it's just more of the most useless sign in existence rearing its ugly lid. My body shakes as I squeeze Penelope harder. She lets me cry in silence for a while, and I hate it. I wish she'd reach into my body and make it stop. Is not being human really so bad? She eventually muses. No, I manage to choke out. Fuck humans. That's not why I just wish I could get it, you know? I wish I could go back and undo everything up to this point, but I wouldn't even have any idea how to unfuck it. I thought the church would always hate me no matter what because I eat souls, but now they have a fucking Vrothizo. So was it just me? I haven't held you or anyone else for 2 fucking years and it's my fault and I have no idea what I could have done better? I'm shouting by the end of my little rant, which traditional wisdom says is a dumb idea in the forest, but I honestly hope something comes to try and eat us. Give me something simple, something that I can just fucking slaughter my way through and not have to worry about the consequences. Just let me kill some goddamn monsters and leave me alone. Would it help if I tell you? Penelope murmurs. The things you could have done to avoid this, were you to go back in time. Go for it, I answer, not having any idea whether it would or wouldn't. When you first found your powers, were you not so afraid of authority? Were you not raised by people suspicious of the church? You would have thought to go to them. And that would have changed everything. Nora was right, up to a point. They would not have killed you, they would have tried to help you. They would look into your claims, find that you are indeed a natural animancer, track down your connection to ours, and they would have believed you. You would not have been killed or hurt or sent to jail. No, I whisper. Please don't say that. Ah, but I'm not done, Penelope hums, a smile tickling her face. Because you wouldn't have been free, either. Of course they can't let an animancer go free. They would have used you, if you were an obedient and devout little girl. They would have quite enjoyed using you, Vita. Perhaps you would have even ended up a symbol of the church itself, heralded as a prophet of the Mistwatcher, with your mana and your tentacles and whatnot. You would be living a life of comfort and relative safety, your family taken care of, your food brought to you, and your every moment of every day planned out by someone else. Just like your little friend Clark. That's how the church works, Vita. They have to either control you, or they kill you. There is no middle ground. Could you accept that, Vita? I feel the fire in her soul as she speaks, her passion and her smoldering hate. She already knows my answer, and loves me for it. No, I admit. I despise that. Yes, she agrees. And that has been my life these past 2 years, my own sort of prison. Nowhere near as bad a one as yours, but it's still there. I've had no choice but to play the good little church girl, to become something they think they can push around and use as they will. My research is theirs, my time is theirs, my skills are theirs. Even my personal wealth is only allowed because how I use it falls within their view of acceptability. This isn't overt, mind you. I've received no threats and no orders. Only reasonable requests and thin smiles. There's not a shred of evidence to implicate them. But the pattern is there. They poach the strongest members out of the army so that their private force is always stronger. They maintain exclusive control on an entire school of magic in the name of safety. They knew about Sky's plan to cause a perception event and chose to abuse it instead of stopping it. Any other explanation is statistically absurd. And yet they keep getting away with it because they have that power base, they have the public's approval, they have the ability to stage a thinly veiled coup without anyone batting an eye. So you may not always be making the right choice, Vita, but I promise you this, conflict was inevitable. At this stage of the plan we're not looking to avoid the church anymore. We have to destroy them. I continue holding her silently, soaking that in. She's probably right. I hate that she's probably right. There's a part that doesn't sit well with me, though. You make them out to be these absolute evil masterminds, I say, but I've literally never met a Templar or preacher like that. Not that I meet many preachers, but I've met a lot of Templars. And they don't think that way. Not even the ones I hate. A lot of them are pretty damn nice people. Even if they still end up betraying me. That's the frightening thing, Vita, Penelope says. Both things can be true. Their whole dogma is about getting kind people to bully and abuse. It's really not that fucking hard to get humans to be evil. All you have to do is convince them that it's good. And every damn one of them knows this, yet they all think it only applies to everyone else. Nothing is easier than justification. Causing a fucking perception event, though? I grumble. That's explicitly something the Templars exist to stop. They didn't cause it, per se, Penelope muses. They just decided that the Mistwatcher's will should be enacted without their interference, this time. Although you have a point, the whole mass murder situation is a bit of a bright red flag that says evil on it. There's no way the rank and file believes the church was involved. Perhaps there are a few truly foul masterminds in the woodworks of their organization. I haven't met them yet, but hopefully if they exist we make sure not to let them escape. I chuckle. You really wanna do this? I ask. Just destroy them all? Do we have any other options at this point? She counters. If we follow through with using animancy to become immortal, they'll come after us anyway. They won't let us save anyone else. Dying is too important to their dogma. I sigh. All right. How are we doing this, then? I don't know the first thing about toppling a regime. Oh, you just leave all the toppling to me, Vita, Penelope murmurs. All you need to do is keep being big and scary. Prepare for the fight that's inevitably coming your way, keep their eyes off me, and make them hate you more than anything. Can you do that? I nod glumly. Literally without even trying, I confirm. Tope continued. Thanks for listening.